We've just had the Warhammer Fest reveals and there's some very interesting stuff that has come out of it. Now, I know a lot of you will actually be a little bit disappointed because I was streaming this live and people were telling me they were disappointed, but I actually think it is pretty much what I expected. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't see like hints of a release date, but it is what it is, so let's jump in and talk about what we did get. Okay, I'm interjecting very quickly because there's just been some big news that there's not actually going to be a starter box for Warhammer The Old World. Now, I don't know what I'm going to say in the rest of the video, but let me show you what somebody is reporting on Twitter, and it's pretty sizable, so let's just jump straight in. So Josh is reporting this. One final note on The Old World. In the Q&A, they said that for now, there will be no starter set. This game will be assumed that it is not your first war game, and as such, it will not have the same style of launch as Horus Heresy. That, to me, is mind-blowing, but there is a little bit of good news when it's scrolling down. They do say here that the rules will come as part of an online resource for all armies, as well as new books for the included factions in the setting, and there will, however, be boxes. Vanguard start collecting boxes for getting into new armies. That is crazy to me. Like, even though it's not my first war game, I still would like a starter box because generally the value of the models are quite like good and cheap and stuff like that. And you get all the tools, you know, the whippy stick and stuff like that. That's pretty sizable. I'm not really sure what my thoughts are on it right now. All that I know is that it's very interesting. And if that is to be believed, and there's no reason why I wouldn't believe this person, then it's pretty important. I'll try to leave a link to this person's Twitter if you want to check them out as well. It sort of makes sense because in the video, they didn't actually say a starter box for Tomb Kings versus Bretonnians. They just said Tomb Kings versus Bretonnians, and that's what they were focusing on. Either way, yeah, I'm recording this after the fact. Back to whatever I was making before. Now, there is an article about this, but I actually think most of the information that was relevant comes from the Twitch stream itself. But I'll just quickly scroll through it. There's a video which I'll play in a moment once we have a bit of a downtime. I'll play the whole video, but we'll have a look at it as well. And there's basically two new models. There's a new Tomb King character, which I have to say looks pretty damn sweet. My one point is that it's probably going to take me forever to paint that level of details. That just looks like insane to me. And then there's a new paladin for the Bretonnians, who is basically equivalent to, he's going to be a part of the new Knights on Foot, we think. He's basically a character that I'm guessing is coming along with them. And that was really it when it comes to new models. There's not much more beyond that. Now, if we take a look at the video and the models themselves, they obviously look pretty damn great. It starts with the new Tomb King model. Now, I was a little bit excited because I had heard that Cetra was getting a model, but it actually is just a character. But the details on this guy looks pretty exceptional. He looks pretty damn nice. Classic Tomb King feel. Very happy with the way that he looks. There is one downside, and we are going to talk about this more a little bit, in that it is actually a resin model. In fact, both the characters are resin, so the Tomb King is a resin model and the Paladin is also a resin model. However, I would say that, you know, the Paladin stabbing the Orc's head that it's just lopped off, pretty damn nice. The detail looks pretty damn exquisite. It's going to be Forge World resin rather than fine cast. Now, that might make a difference to some of you, but for me, it's pretty important. Now, that's pretty much everything from the article, but there is one thing I want to point out. So they do say that there are going to be new models for the game will be released in Citadel Plastic and Forge World resin, and they'll be joining a whole range of resurrected and revitalized miniatures from previous editions in plastic, resin, and metal. Metal is coming back to Warhammer The Old World, and I'm a little bit surprised they're doing anything in metal rather than just sort of redoing it, but I guess Finecast was really not that well received, so maybe they're ditching it. But then it does say resin, so I'm a little bit confused. I don't know why they're doing metal. A lot of people don't like metal, and I don't like metal. I know there's a handful of you out there who actually do, but it's not something I'm personally overly interested in. Now, there is no information about a release date here, but one thing that they do say is that it does say this is only the start of a flood of models for Warhammer The Old World, so a flood of new models, key, so not just the old stuff, but new models are actually coming, and there's going to be a lot more of them. You can obviously, like, well, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to be kept up to date, but obviously the Warhammer community article is going to be the place to be. Now, on the Twitch stream, there is a little bit of extra information and a little bit of extra detail. So, for example, this image wasn't on the community website. You can't see it there, but it is here. By the way, I really don't like the font that they have used for this bit here, but it's not really relevant. On this model, I like everything, personally, apart from the ridiculous antlers. It's just not my personal taste. And I do not get the candles. There's like several candles shoved in. I mean, obviously you need candles to see because there's no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no mobile phones or what have you. But I don't know. I find that very weird. And you can obviously see that they are killing an orc. Now, they did say that effectively we will be showing you orcs at some point. So it sounds like orcs are going to get new models, because they said it's basically a tease of stuff coming up, and it's a classic looking orc, looks great. Now the other thing with this model specifically is that there is going to be alternative heads. Now I much prefer the one without the helmet on, because I just don't really like the antlers. I actually like everything sort of below the rope, if you will. I also don't really like the candle, as I mentioned before, but yeah, this one I really like, this one a little bit less, but that's just personal taste, it's up to you. Interesting though that they are doing this, and again, just to remind you, this is resin, Forge World resin. Here is the Tomb King with the hand weapon, which I'm guessing is a character. I think it's just sort of going to be like a generic character. They did say that more named characters will be coming, because obviously we're set in a different time. We are set in the Civil War time. I forgot exactly when they said, but they said there's going to be more named characters. However, I think these are sort of generic characters. Here you can see that it says the game is set in the old world, and it will be at the time of the 3 emperors, just before the Great War against Chaos. Pretty sure we already knew that, but they say the factions that are fighting in the old world, and what they mean by the old world is the old world part of the map, these are the ones that they're going to be focusing on. So basically anybody who's outside of that area geographically are not somebody that they're going to be concentrating on when it comes to the old world. You will, however, be able to play with your armies, they're just not going to be a focus. Because they also say this, there will be new models for many factions, both plastic and resin, as well as returning models for many factions, again, what we already knew. But confirmation here, I've been saying this for a while, but it's nice to see actual written confirmation. Every 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy army will be playable with our ongoing focus on the featured old world armies. So basically, if your armies like Dark Elves and they're not in the old world at the time, you're still going to be able to play them. Everything that was basically playable in 8th edition is a yes. Everything that wasn't, possibly a no. So Chaos Dwarfs, for example, I don't think they had an 8th edition release or anything like that. Probably not. But anything that you had at the end times, that's going to be usable. Wood Elves, etc. We already know about Wood Elves, but all of those factions. And then this is probably the starter box, right? So there was rumours here that we were going to get Bretonnian Tomb King starter box, but then everybody was actually saying, oh, it's going to be Empire versus Orcs. The fact that we got Orcs before could sort of be a hint that maybe it actually will be Empire versus Orcs as well. But here it says the first 2 armies that will get attention will be Bretonnians and Tomb Kings. Only it doesn't use the word and, it says versus Tomb Kings. So you have to assume that this will be the starter box. It's the only logical conclusion at this point. I will be very surprised if it isn't. I'm sort of thinking we might go for a 2 new starter boxes, but I mean, maybe there'll be like a window between them. Either way, it's an exciting box. It sort of is like, hey, these were the ones that were sort of semi-neglected a little bit. They're coming back. It's probably going to be the starter box. Then they showed off some art. So he's a Bretonnian peasant. He's a Bretonnian blessing. He's a new Ashabati miniature, apparently, because this looks a little bit different from the old one. So it looks like they'll get something new. He's a Carrion, looking pretty damn sweet. And confirmation that the Necro Sphinx, for example, will be an example of a model that is literally just going to come back as a plastic kit. I'm thinking it was plastic when it was released. It's coming back as a plastic kit. This effectively is the full map of the old world, i.e. the area of the map that they're going to be concentrating on. If your army is in here, then you're going to possibly get new stuff. I'm guessing once they've done with the old world, maybe like in a couple of years' time, they'll actually expand out and do new stuff for other factions and stuff like that, but it's not something they're going to concentrate on right now. No information regarding the release date. They did say it was quite a ways out. Now, we had a bit of a discussion in chat. Does that mean it's in the end of this year? Does that mean it's 2024? Does that mean it's even 2025? Honestly, we obviously don't know. All of the rumours are sort of hinting that it's going to be the end of this year, and personally, I still sort of believe that. When you look at GW's hype windows, what they do is they have a very short hype train, and that's so that it doesn't interact or distract from other hype trains. So they're going to let 40k release, and then they're going to do something else. That something else, I think, will be Warhammer The Old World. The reaction when the Warhammer The Old World was like teased in the auditorium at Warhammer Fest was very, very noticeable. It was way louder than AOS, and it was way louder than Horus Heresy. It sounded like it has quite a lot of fans, let's just put it like that. Whether or not that will translate into people buying the game, obviously I don't know. But my point is, I can still see an end of this year release window, but it may not happen. It may be a little bit after that. It's very likely, though, that AOS is probably getting a new edition next summer. So if it's not this winter, then I have no idea when it will actually be. I'm personally still banking on this year. However, it may not be the case. I just think we're probably going to start getting information after 40k's new edition. That's it. That's sort of the recap. If you want to go watch my live reactions, feel free, but I mean, this is sort of the condensed version. I hope you have a most beautiful day. If you want to support the channel, becoming a Patreon truly is the best way. There's a link in the description. I really need to get away where I can actually show the people's names. I'm just very incompetent like that. Either way, I'm very grateful though. If you don't want to do that, you should have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.